Some call it X, some know it as Mandy, Molly, Beans, or a number of other names. What is this drug? And why has this highly illicit drug become so popular in the rave culture? Disclaimer: we do not condone the use of any illegal or legal substances. This video is for entertainment and harm reduction purposes only. Molly, also known as the love drug, is a common nickname for the compound known as MDMA, methyldeoxymethamphetamine. While molecularly, it is very similar to another drug with a similar name, the effects produced are much different. Molly has become extremely popular due to the intense feelings of euphoria that are caused by the substance. Many people who don't use drugs may wonder, well, what is it really like? This video is here to explain everything you need to know about Molly so that you don't have to try it, and if you do decide to, you can mitigate some of the risks to your safety and health. One of the biggest dangers of Molly might shock you. The biggest danger is, well, that you aren't actually taking MDMA. Due to the substance being illicit in most areas, this means that users can't just go to their local grocery store's pharmacy and say, "Hey, I'd like to purchase some Molly." Instead, users are often buying the drug from drug dealers. And the issue is, real, pure MDMA isn't cheap, and a lot of drug dealers don't care if the stuff they sell is real or not. They want to make a profit, even if that means selling someone an impostor substance marketed to them as pure Molly that could harm them, or even worse. The craziest part is, many of these research chemicals that are disguised as MDMA are legal to purchase due to the fact that they aren't technically the same as the illicit drug. Though the effects are similar and many may argue that they're far more dangerous, due to the legality combined with the often cheaper price point, it equals a recipe for disaster. Well, just how much of the illicit drug market contains fake Molly, you might wonder. Let's just say, it's a lot. A harm reduction organization conducted a study where they tested 529 ecstasy pills and only detected MDMA, or its older brother MDA, in 318 of those pills. Some of these pills contained bath salts, methyl 1, and several even contained a highly dangerous amphetamine called PMA that is associated with overdose deaths. How do you avoid ingesting substances like this? Well, the best way is always to not do drugs, but as we may know, despite the war on drugs, it doesn't stop thousands of people around the United States and other countries from using them. Well, what would be the quote, safest way to do it? Well, what you wouldn't want to do is go up to some random drug dealer in a dark alley and ask him for some Molly. That wouldn't be very smart. The safest way would be to first off, trust the source it is coming from. The only way you could really trust that it's real and doesn't contain harmful adulterants without saying, "I know Joe is a good guy and would never sell me fake stuff," is to purchase it legally. Or you could have it tested by a lab. Most users probably don't fit into either of those categories, unfortunately. What other ways are there to test for harmful substances? You can also buy what are called reagent test kits, research which ones are best to purchase and how to properly use them. These won't tell you exactly what is in the substance, but it can give you a pretty good idea. In my opinion, this should be the absolute minimum precaution anyone takes before experimenting with Molly or any other similar drug, yet it sadly isn't a common practice for people to test substances before ingesting them. Many of the users are younger kids or adults who think they're invincible, and I was the same way too at one point. So, after you hypothetically get it from a legal source, what's the safest way to take it? First off, you need to treat the substance with respect. Understand that Molly is nothing like drinking a glass of wine or a cup of coffee. It is a very powerful substance and considered a psychedelic by many. The safest way to take it would be to first off, not mix it with any other substances, especially if you're not familiar with them. If you're a pothead, having some around may be fine. You will probably want to smoke it after the Molly kicks in. But as for anything else, I'd stay far away from it on your first time. Next, you need to understand the effects of Molly. You will probably start to get really happy and talkative if it's real MDMA. Your teeth may start to chatter, and you may get really thirsty as your body heat starts to change. This is all normal, so don't freak out when it happens. It's always better to just go with the flow while you're on Molly. Now hold on a second. Before you actually take it, you need to know how much you're taking. If it's ecstasy, in other words, the pill form, you need to know the MDMA content in the pills. This can be pretty difficult to determine if you aren't sending it to a lab and don't have a legal source. Now, on the other hand, if it's in a crystal form, assuming it is both pure and real, you could weigh the substance out with a point scale. Now, keep in mind, most cheaper scales may not give an accurate reading. You will probably want one that accurately reads to the hundredths or thousandths of a gram. A point is referred to as 0.1 of a gram, or about 100 milligrams of MDMA. For most people, they will feel the effects from a point. Depending on your body weight and tolerance, you may need to take more or less to feel the full effects. Lastly, a few more points to keep in mind. From personal experience, Molly can make things get very weird, and also very deep, emotional, and even very sexual. Now, if you're a guy, one thing to keep in mind is that MDMA is an amphetamine, which is a vasoconstrictor. It is notorious for making certain parts of the body shrink, meaning while you're on it, it's possible your hot dog may turn into something more similar to a raisin. Also, it can be rather challenging to get blood flow to that particular region while you're on it. While this may all sound alarming, you probably won't care too much while you're rolling, as they call it. Molly makes everything, including breathing, feel so good. When it's kicking in, you may notice that you want to touch stuff around you. Everything starts to feel different. You may have some really deep conversations with the people around you, so I recommend staying in a safe area with a group of people you trust. Molly isn't really a party drug in my opinion. I think it is better done with a small group of friends. This is because if you're in public, you may look to others like you're on crack, but you probably won't care at all. You get this temporary sense of extreme confidence while you're rolling, and this feeling that you're invincible. You could be around complete strangers, and even if you're normally very quiet or shy, you probably won't hesitate to start talking to them. The best way I can describe it is normally when you're sober, most people have that voice in their heads telling them they shouldn't do everything that their head tells them to. Let's say you see a cute girl, for example. If you're sober, you may not approach her immediately, or if you do, you might feel a little nervous. With Molly, it's like that feeling of self-doubt is almost entirely temporarily erased. If you think it in your head, there's a good chance you'll do it. This is why it is so important to make sure you are in a safe environment, and ideally, there is someone in the group who is sober, watching over everyone to make sure nothing bad happens. Now, don't get me wrong, while it feels really good, that feeling doesn't last forever. The flood of dopamine and serotonin caused by the love drug may leave your serotonin receptors feeling depleted the next day. Due to the intense effects and massive dump of feel-good chemicals, it isn't very good for your brain to be taking it a lot. If you do decide to use it, start with less than what you think you need, limit the amount that you take, and don't use it more than once every 3 to 6 months. I hope you liked this video. Keep in mind, one of the biggest dangers of Molly, aside from getting fake Molly, is using it too frequently, which can have long-term negative psychological effects. Some users have even talked about experiencing intense waves of anxiety or depression, or feelings of hopelessness following extensive use of the substance. Remember to always stay safe. Also, lastly, if you do decide to try it, you'll probably want some cool lights. Be sure to check out thelampcorner.com for the sickest LED lamps. Anyhow, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe for more future videos.